No, well, I get up early and I leave her asleep. Sleeping Beauty, you know, so... But
you listen to that, Cheryl?
There you go. She don't listen to it. There's an interesting little point. I don't know whether anybody saw Blue Planet last week.
I didn't see this week's. No, not yet.
Oh well, there's apparently they showed a picture of a little dead baby whale in Blue Planet, and they said that the death was linked to plastics. You know, but the plastic makers apparently they hit back at the BBC saying that the alarmist images of the dead baby whale linked to plastics with absolutely no supporting evidence.
Right, okay. I've seen stuff about this, not necessarily on the Blue Planet, but I have actually seen pictures and evidence of albatrosses that have died. And when they've cut them open, they've found like 50 items of foreign body items that are in there, from plastics to lump and metal, you name it, is in there. Bits of cord, and there's in the Mail this week there's a picture of a turtle, a leatherback turtle or something.
Straw for its nose.
Yes, and it's, you know, their intestines and that are full up with lumps of plastic and so on, and you've only got to see these pictures where all the plastic, in fact, isn't there a Caribbean island that there's a whole sea of plastic has turned up, and there has to be a link here without a shadow of a doubt. And this actually shows the shameful nature of the human population in how they dispose of rubbish.
I was going to say, how can the plastics industry actually defend it?
I'm sorry, I'm going to jump back into this Richard Branson thing for a second, gentlemen, because I'm doing a bit of catch up.
Here we go.
Right, Joss Stone's father was also at the event. Richard Stone was amongst the guests.
Oh, Stone, man.
He said Joss Joss and the group had a wonderful time. Everybody entered into the party spirit. It was a wonderful gathering, and it was great to get to know Richard and his family. They were all there. So, you know, this is another case where I think the motivations behind this story have to be questioned.
They probably all had a bit too much to drink as well. Let's face it. Probably been on some sort of substances as well. Who knows? Allegedly.
It doesn't make these things right if drink is involved, but it lessens the inhibitions and things happen. But
isn't it lovely to be young again, eh?
I forgot what we were talking about. Now, plastics.
Well, we were talking about plastics, and I mean,
has anybody else ever, do you think anybody's ever done anything slightly inappropriate as a result of having a few drinks?
Plastics or
male or female? I'm talking about male and female relationships.
Well, of course they have.
Of course they have, and I've known young ladies do some very extraordinary things when they've had a few drinks.
Oh yeah, take all their clothes off and dance on tables.
I have seen that happen on more than one occasion. It does happen. These things do happen. It's about time. Is it just to sell newspapers? Is that why it's a big story now?
Well, there's an accusation.
Is it to sell newspapers?
No,
I mean, is it to get a double-page spread on the fact that Branson may have gone in a bit of humorous jesting? Has humorous jesting become a sexual assault?
No, actually, as I say, if it had been one of us, the newspapers wouldn't have been interested, would they? So there lies the proof, doesn't it?
Well, I don't think it's the proof. I think what it is we seem to have got ourselves wound up into a sort of a Daily Mail righteousness moral haze where everything has now become suspect, and just an innocent comment can be taken out of context and used against you.
I think you're right. Yeah, look out, guys! They're around the corner watching us, waiting to pick us up and knock on the door. Aren't they? They really are.
And quite honestly, unless it loosens up a bit, I mean, it's going to make it impossible for anybody to have fun anywhere.
Well, perhaps this is why a lot of guys don't bother to go out with girls anymore. They sort of prefer girls. They prefer their own sex company.
Have you been to Pig Punters?
No, I've never been.
Well, I have on a number of occasions, and that's a different way of looking at things.
Well, I suppose it is.
You're right there, but there you go.
And there's lots of plastic there.
Yeah,
normally they're wearing it.
I think we just we drifted off this little thing about.
Oh, the plastic. Yeah, sorry. But what happens when you research? Mike calls me the researcher. What I do is I do flip into the newspapers or online to sort of get some facts about what we're talking about, so that I've got some decent background information.
Oh, talking of that,
and that takes a moment or two. So I apologise, listener.
Just to add a little bit to what you just said, Gove was saying yesterday that politicians are being hounded by fake news on social media, and I replied to that, well, also on the other end of the scale, politicians are being exposed for what they really are through social media as well. So it's a two-edged sword.
It really is a two-edged sword, because I think some of the appalling lies that are told by politicians really need to be exposed, and are being exposed under social media.
And I suspect that's what Gove was getting on about, that he's worried that he might be exposed for something.
Well, particularly some of the nastiness of the Tory parties with relation to the way with relation to the way they're treating poor and disabled people at the moment. I'm glad social media is kicking back at that.
Every party is the same.
Are they?
I think so.
Really?
Yes,
I do.
Really?
Kevin.
Yes.
I was going to say, and if we get back to the point in question here,
plastic,
we can use that exactly the same. You've got David Attenborough saying that plastic is killing these creatures, and you've got plastic manufacturers saying it's not killing the creatures. It's just a different area.
Yeah.
Exactly the same, and there's always going to be that. If I say it's black, someone else will say it's white, and that's the end of it. But this is a serious issue, in my opinion.
It is.
I wouldn't say I'm an out-and-out environmentalist, but I do consider myself to be a tidy, decent sort of guy. And is guy the right word?
Yeah, well,
I think you're allowed to use.
Are you allowed to say that?
Perhaps gentleman would be appropriate.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I was trying to be in the middle there, Guy. You see, and
a gay guy.
These guys,
I'm quite happy most of the time, Mike. I'm just hasten to.
But most of the time,
plastic.
What happens on those moments when you're not, though? That's what's interesting.
Plastic is one of the scourge of the current society, and allied to that, in itself, it's not much of a problem. It is the human population and their views on chucking rubbish away, because that is what this amounts to, and it is going to kill off this planet if we're not careful. And it's not just plastic, it's all sorts of things. I went to Spain many years ago. We drove around. You get little villages, and you look at a little sort of valley, a little gorge, and you look down the bottom. Being a bird watcher, you get the bins out, okay, the binoculars. You start scanning for birds, and what you see is umpteen fridges, freezers, washing machines just pushed into a gorge. That's not exactly doing the society any good.
It's
for
everywhere.
The environment.
It's everywhere.
And this plastic is absolutely murderous.
Even the Japanese, when I went to Japan many years ago, I mean, they're renowned for being so clean and spotless, aren't they? But they're not. They are in their own homes, but outside they don't seem to care. On a street corner you'll find a load of rubbish, in the middle of the countryside somewhere, and...
I've been down to a local shop on 2 Mile Ash, and a lady had a Mars bar or something, and she must be sitting 4 feet from a rubbish bin.
Yeah, I know.
She sat on a little brick wall outside, ate the Mars bar, and then just threw the wrapper on the floor.
That does rile me. That really does rile me. But the trouble is, if you say anything, you're the one that's going to get into trouble, aren't you? You might be attacked, or verbally or physically, and this is the problem. So people don't confront them, do they?
No, that's it.
Particularly if they're a gang of yobbos who seem to take a delight in throwing McDonald's wrappers out their car windows.
Yeah. And how many of us, of the human population, how many of us try to eat and chew little bits of plastic?
13.
And 13 people. Fair enough then. Your research obviously knows no bounds.
Well, this was in Milton Keynes last night, when the...
due to drink again.
The brigade stood outside McDonald's and counted the number of people that were involved in such activities.
But the thing here, the serious point here is, we know that we don't chew plastic. A leatherback turtle, a sperm whale, or whatever they are, they don't. They see something, it moves, and it may well be food to them.
Well, yes,
it is alien to their environment.
Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, really, because I think this is another global warming type issue, where we're putting the frightness on everybody.
No, I don't think it is. I disagree with you.
Well, the sea, the oceans and the water of the world are so vast. That just this fact. There are hundreds of thousands of sperm whales. And you get a couple who are stupid enough to eat a couple of plastic bags and die. So what?
I think you're minimalising the problem, Mike.
Yeah, I think that's at the end of the day, there's a major problem with pollution, and we need to deal with it. And I think that the irresponsible way in which some of the items that we consume are being disposed of needs to be addressed by councils and local authorities around the world. The problem is where you've got a responsible local authority like Milton Keynes, who are pretty good at recycling and looking after and disposing of things in an appropriate way, and have reduced significantly the amount of waste that goes into landfill, and they're good guys. But you go to some rogue state somewhere in the world that consumes loads of practice, and they just dump it at sea.
Yeah.
They don't have that.
Yeah, but it's also happening on your doorstep. I mean, my East European neighbours last week put their rubbish bags out full of food on a Friday. They don't even bother to double wrap the bags. Of course, within hours, the magpies have come down, chewed at the bags, and there was piles and piles of rice all over the pavement. Not only that, I would add, they gave their kid a spray can and watched him spray graffiti all up the post of the courtyard I live in, and they do nothing about it. The poor council refuse collectors have to come round and pick this lot up, don't they? So of course they can't pick up the rice because they've got nothing to pick it up with, so it's just left.
But I would have thought if there was rice on the floor, those magpies would have wafted it.
I don't know, they didn't.
And the little birds as well, yeah.
Well, it's probably curry or something. I don't know what was on it.
Well, because I know that if I leave a piece of bread out in my garden for more than 30 seconds, or almost anything that's edible, it's gone.
Even plastic, yeah?
No, well, this wasn't gone.
Well, not plastic.
This wasn't gone. So what happens? My wife goes out and clears it up.
I do think that actually manufacturers have a responsibility to, wherever possible, use biodegradable products, and I think there's no plastic is a cheap material, relatively cheap, and biodegradable materials are usually a little bit more expensive, and I think it would be only reasonable. I mean, if we were going to remain members of the European Economic Community, like what I think we should, then I think legislation would come out.
It's the EU now, Alan.
Oh, is it the EU?
Yeah, European Union.
Oh, is it?
It changed. Remember, they didn't tell anybody.
Oh, yes, they didn't tell anybody, did they?
It will soon be called the other lot.
The other lot,
Yeah,
yes.
them over there.
I am appalled at this. I mean, every day I read another thing that makes me go, no, it is such a mad idea.
I'm deeply worried about it because don't forget our energy supplies are provided by other countries.
Yes.
And if they decide we upset anybody, they're going to cut our energy supplies. Or is it going to cause rises in the bills?
It will cause rises in all.
It will, yeah.
The best estimates at the moment is that over the course of a year, will be about £16,000 a family worse off.
Well, people haven't got £16,000 a family, have they?
Well, this is where they're talking Mickey Mouse thing, and they're talking about trying to make people worried and all this sort of thing. I mean, I think if you boil it down to the biggest sort of problems that we're going to get, the Milton Keynes Council have spent quite a lot of money in putting a bid together to become the European City of the Year in 2000.
City of Culture, yes.
City of Culture in 2000 and whatever it is, 20 or something, And of course the EU have turned around and said, well, sorry, but you can't put a bid in because in 2020 or 22 or whatever it is, you won't be in the EU, so therefore you can't be a European City of Culture. So it's great. So, and they put their fingers up to Milton Keynes Council and several other councils throughout the country as well, so big deal. But
it is a big deal.
Why?
Well, I would quite like Milton Keynes to be a city of culture. I think a European city of culture for Milton Keynes would be a wonderful thing, because it's a new city that's developing its culture. It hasn't got a 2,000-year-old culture like some of the other cities, but like London, for instance. But what it does have is a growing culture. It has an electric culture. There's so much going on in Milton Keynes. It's an amazing place, and I think that needs to be recognised. And recognition from Europe would be wonderful, and it'd be a wonderful thing for the city. So I'm really upset that it's not happening.
So we're going to get ourselves in a situation where I read here that being swamped by visitors is a problem other cities might welcome, but not Oxford. After 7 million tourists visited the city of just 161,000 people last year, it could now ban tourists from certain areas to cut congestion. Bob Price, the leader of the City Council, admitted guidance on where groups can walk in large numbers was being considered.
Oh, what a lot of nonsense.
Yes, he added, we will have to find better ways of handling the increase in